Gata on opening the sutra, the Dharma incomparably profound and infinitely subtle is rarely encountered even in millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, receive and maintain it. May we completely realize the Tathagata's true meaning.
So, good afternoon, everybody. I mark it a signifier of great advancement that the temple now has a copy machine. And, for years, I would have all these books and stuff and trying to juggle them with page markers. It was fine. It was a mild cardio workout. But now we've got a copy machine. And so I can go back there and at the flip of a button, more or less, it agrees, and I can, and it reminds me of when I was in high school. I was part of the debate club. And anybody here ever be on the debate club? It's a thing, right? It's a thing. Of course, back in my day, it was index cards. We had these big briefcases of index cards with information was organized by this mystical rune system called the Dewey Decimal System. Ancient and arcane, beyond the youngins today. And we would have to find relevant, data to support whatever, and make copies, and cut out the little copies, and paste them on the index cards, and stick them in the file. And it was great. I loved it. So it's kind of like that. I've got this little one and that little one, and oh my gosh, this is great. I just need a big briefcase and some index cards, or not. But it is amazing how far we've come and what the journey is turning into for all of us. As we sit here right now, the first snow of the year is surrounding us, and it's quite exquisite in the temple zendo. I can remember the first time or two when we were hoping that the land would be able to be used in this way, and camera crews were coming out, and Hoshi's out there trying to paint an image, and the snow is blowing around. Do you remember that stuff? Oh, yeah, that's good times. But here we are now in an actual temple. And the snow is an amazing teacher. There's something very pure about snow, and there's something different to the quality of the silence when snow is around. The temperature affects the way sound travels through air, and there's a kind of an elegant hush over things. And particularly when we're surrounded by as much nature as we are in the middle of the city. Nonetheless, there's a symphony of silence pointed out by the sound of the wind and the leaves that are falling and the snow on top of it and the animals. Then, of course, the sound of sesshin, the sound of the hon playing. many of us were here in the early days of last spring when we had a fantastic gathering. If you can recall, we had the throng was gathered, we had flowers, we had tea ceremony, we had parades of a Zen kind of sort, circumambulating the space. It was just delicious and wonderful. But this session is no less so. We are fewer in number at this time, of course. The weather is turning to winter, which some find a challenge, of course. But through it all, the beating heart of the Dharma is still exactly here, if we can but tune into it. If we can find a way in, or specifically, if we can find our way in. Unfortunately, we're not, lizards. We're not just born and then left with nothing but your genome and instinct to guide you until you're dead. We have culture, for better and worse. We transmit and pass down some not so good things, but some beautiful and wondrous things. And one of the most precious, in my view, is this container of experiencing our lives, of encountering the heart-mind that is sesshin, that is retreat. It's an incredible gift and to receive, an incredible privilege to be able to engage with at all, even once, let alone to kind of get your sesshin legs together and know how to wield this and be wielded by this incredible form. So within the belly of this sesshin, again, the Dhammapada asks to be sung. Choices. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts we make the world. Speak or act with an impure mind, and trouble will follow you, as the wheel follows the ox that draws the cart. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts we make the world. Speak or act with a pure mind, and happiness will follow you as your shadow, unshakable. Now, yesterday we spent some time looking into what is pure mind anyway. Is there such a thing as impure? What would that be? How do we access it? And we came to see that it has to do with tuning in very deeply to our present experience. We've been reading Master Ta Hui in the mornings, and he recently, in his Swampland Flower collection, he said this: if correct mindfulness is present at all times, and the attitude of awareness of birth and death doesn't waver, then, over days and months, what was unfamiliar will naturally become familiar, and what was stale will naturally become fresh. But what is the stale? It is the brilliance and cleverness, that which thinks and judges. What is the unfamiliar? It's enlightenment, nirvana, true thusness, Buddha nature, where there's no thought nor discrimination, where figuring and calculating cannot reach, where there's no way for you to use such mental arrangements. It's amazing to me how strong, how tight the grip of the intellect is on our very experience. Even though we're here in the womb of suchness itself, set ourselves to the business of uncovering our true selves, still this intellection continues to assert. And not that thinking is bad. I want to stand up for thinking. Thinking is good. But it's partial. And there are some things which it will simply never be able to help you with. although it pretends it can, and it tries, but ultimately cannot. This business of awareness of death, mindfulness of the impermanence of life, is absolutely essential to the training. That's partly why it's kind of rare to have young folks connect with the Dharma, because typically young folks think they're going to live forever and always be thin no matter what they eat, and able-bodied, and all these wonderful things. Somewhere down the road, that usually gets smacked around enough, if not earlier in life, depending what kind of cards you're dealt. But to have the great fortune as we do today, to have a number of young people actually engaging the deep end, I bow to you all. It's really amazing. And it is radically countercultural. It always has been. There's nothing unique about that now. It's just a little bit on steroids with in the internet and everything, but it's the same mind. It's still us humans, still figuring out ways to make a gilded trap for ourselves and be satisfied with it as it slowly chokes the life out of us. So let's not. Instead, let's gather and let's intentionally set ourselves to this business of merging fully with this moment as this moment actually is. And one of the great challenges is the picking of flowers. The picking of the lovely, beautiful flowers, and the holding on to the lovely, beautiful flowers, and cultivating the lovely, beautiful flowers, and playing with the lovely, beautiful flowers, and picking daisies and never digging deep. I can still remember my first teacher had a hell of a phrase he used to say sometimes: quit picking daisies and dig in. I got smacked upside the head with that a few times, and it was well deserved. And luckily, eventually, I heeded what he was trying to say. In the Dhammapada, he says, "Who shall conquer this world and the world of death with all of its gods? Who shall discover the shining way of the Dharma? You shall, even as one who seeks flowers finds the most beautiful and the rarest. Understand that the body is merely the foam of a wave, the shadow of a shadow. Snap the flower arrows of desire, and then unseen escape the king of death and travel on." The flower arrows of desire. I think that this is very much how the mind presents its strategies and schemes and stories. What a beautiful flower, my idea, my concept, or my tragedy. It doesn't matter if it's a comedy or a tragedy. It's still a flower. It's necessary to be able to see through such things and not be trapped by them. The Buddha continues on. He says, "Death overtakes the one who gathers flowers, when with distracted mind and thirsty senses they search vainly for happiness in the pleasures of the world. Death fetches them away as a flood carries off a sleeping village." You have to be careful with these kinds of words, because in our culture, I should say North American culture, it's founded on religious crazyism. That's our bedrock. The Puritans are the purest of the pure, and they're going to be more rigorous than the most rigorous possible in the old world, and it just got weirder from there, and continues to. Okay, so good start. And you can see this foolishness playing out today still, although hopefully less so as time goes on. So we don't want to misread. Many occult have used similar words to say, don't trust the world, trust the great cult leader. The UFO is coming soon, we'll all be beyond this. Drink your Kool-Aid. So let's not read it this way. Let's read it the way the Buddha actually said it, the way he actually intended it. The fact is, we are all dying. Newsflash, you're dying. You have been since you were conceived. Since the instant of conception began the birthing and the deathing process. They're not different, they're not separate. It's just a little more obvious at some end of the curve than others, but it's happening the entire time. Just like this snow was happening in the first spring blossom. And right now, this snow is bringing forth the next one. There's no separation. And yet, this impermanence, this pivotal opportunity of a human life can easily be spent in vain, entranced by flowers. I'm a fan of flowers. I'm using it as a simile for shiny stories or scary stories. It doesn't matter if it's a shiny, lovely, beautiful smelling flower or a prickly, scary, horrifying flower. You're still picking flowers and playing with them while time keeps moving on. Just like that horn, right? Faster, faster, faster. Death overcomes them when, with distracted mind and thirsty senses, they gather flowers. They will never have their fill of the pleasures of this world. Have you ever noticed that too much is not enough? Do you know what I'm saying? Have you ever had too much? Was it enough? Never. And yet we're not ascetics. Was that noon meal not amazing? I mean, that's some tasty stuff right there. That was a delicious meal, right? That's all right. Thank you. This coffee is really good. The bunks are damn cozy, right? Give it up. I mean, those are not your marine racks. Those are nice, cozy, like, high-end bunkage we're talking about. So what's going on? Are we in accord with the Buddha way? Are we supposed to be ascetic and sleeping on beds of nails and eating bark? No, not at all. There's this thing called the middle way. You need to take care of the body. You need to nourish the body, but please do not cling to or obsess. You should enjoy your practice thoroughly, but do not obsess chasing after fleeting pleasures. The bee gathers nectar from the flower without marring its beauty or its perfume. So does the master settle in. So does the master wander freely. So I ask you, how do you understand this? This business of playing with flowers, suddenly noticing yourself fondling the precious, waking up and realizing, or are you beyond it? How do you understand this? How do you see it? What has your experience been? And importantly, how do you respond? How do you respond? Knowing that your body is frail and passing, even if you just did your personal best bench press and you're proud of it, still, nonetheless, how do you respond to it? We've got a couple of handhelds, and we'd like to invite some conversation that Doan Sensei and I can respond to. So you can just stay in your seats and make a gasho, and then let's have some conversation on this topic.
My name is Kensei. How do you respond to being aware of your dying? I mean, for me, like I responded by, let's do this. Like, let's be this, be here and engage 100%. But I have a question about what you were saying in your talk about your birth and your death began at your conception. But what about like before that?
Oh, I wouldn't know. Can't say a thing about it.
Okay. I've spoken.
My name is Fusen. My knees have hurt so bad the last few hours, and took ibuprofen, still like very much so aching, and it made me think about the words you're saying about what's your response, even though your body is frail and dying. And it's been a really good teacher at least last sit, just like letting that take up as much space as it wants to, and still something's more expansive than that and can hold that. So that was, it's been a good teacher, but still my knees really hurt. I think I'd rather be lying down on a couch back there, but happy to be practicing.
You're welcome to lie on the couch, and that was a lovely presentation.
Yeah. Richard used to say, pain in the knee is the taste of Zen. I would say too, though, that as long as you're actually not doing damage to the body, okay, like that's different. Like if you hold your finger over the candle flame and it starts to singe, you're doing damage to your body. That's not what I'm talking about. If you're of relatively able body and you sit intelligently and comfortably, inevitably, if you sit there long enough, something's going to go wacky. There's going to be some pain somewhere or something, probably, until you really get it together, but probably always. And so what I found is that for me, not wincing away from the pain was like a big breakthrough. Because there's this unwelcome and unpleasant sensation, and then the instinct is to just like lean away from it, to wince away and to kind of close and kind of hunch down against it. You know what I'm saying? Push it away, kind of thing. And I learned in session that actually that kind of thing actually just makes it worse. It actually increases. And the worst thing you can do is sneak in a posture shift. That's terrible. I don't know if you've ever tried to do that, but something that the monitor might not see, whatever, and you just kind of like shimmy a little bit, it's always worse. It just is. It's never as good a trade as it seemed like it would be. And so, I guess my teaching was desperation, really. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to open my space around this and stop fighting it. This irritating teaching of letting go. Let go. Yeah, I can't let go. My knee hurts. What do you mean let go? Let me get this solved and then I'll work on this letting go thing. You get the knee solved. Oh, I'm too tired. Well, I can't let go now. I'm too tired. So let me get the tiredness figured out and then I'll work on the letting go. Okay, now you're fresh and perky and you feel like, oh gosh, I'd rather be outside because it's so nice. Let me just go enjoy the outside because it's nice. And it just keeps going and going and going, and there's no end. There's literally no end to it. Because that's how your senses work. Your senses are on fire to experience. to experience, with experience. And so the practice of actually just being still anyway and not minding and just being there anyway, merging with it, not fighting it, incredible teacher. And I tell you this, there will probably, unfortunately, come pain in the body that you can't get away from. Like you can't. There's nothing you can do to stop it. And so you either deal with it well or poorly. Those are your choices. It happens. So it's good training, actually. Learn how to be with this sensation of discomfort or fatigue or and too much energy or too little energy or whatever it is. And learn that the sky itself is never marred by any weather pattern. Whether it's pain in the knee or floating, feeling like you're levitating, you swear you are, you're not. And being unmoved. It gives a kind of power that's absolutely necessary. Lately I've been using the word gumption because I can't find a better word for it. I think it's a good word. It takes real gumption to be a human being and to face the reality of your life. There's a reason why we have so much chronic distraction and toys and addictions and all manner of distractions. It's not accidental. It's scary. Being alive is scary, right? What's going to happen to me? What does it all mean? Who the hell am I anyway? Really? Like really? It's heavy duty stuff. So if you can learn to deal with a little bit of discomfort in the knee, you're in the right direction. Stay with it.
I think very practically, like when we're sitting on the cushion and putting our mind in our hara, there's some mysterious thing happening there that's totally trustworthy. And it's sort of interesting because it's like, it's the first instruction when we begin our Zen journey, and it's the main instruction all the way through for our life. It was interesting when I was with Catherine, with her horse. The horse, like, has figured out that Catherine's not strong enough to hold it. So, like, as soon as, like, any kind of grass comes or walks by any grass, like, the head goes right down, and Catherine's like, ah! And so she said, she asked me if I would hold the horse. And I thought, okay, I'm in for a challenge here, right? But amazingly, as soon as I got near the horse, I put my mind almost like, not almost, instinctively in my hara. And I connected with the horse's hara. And the horse went, literally, like, it started going, chewing, right? And chewing is a sign of submission in a horse. And I could put my intention in my hara and send it into the horse, and she did not put her head down. So that's just sort of like a very practical, everyday living kind of like cool thing that happens when you actually learn how to put your mind in your hara. Can you imagine like dealing with that difficult person or that difficult emotion? That's what we're doing on the cushion. We're literally putting our mind in our hara and letting that mysterious superpower that we can totally experience but really know nothing about lead us on, carry us. That's it.
I think over here.
Thank you. My name is Yucho, and this teaching is something I'm not sure how to live into because very early on in my adult life, I came to the firm conviction that I could not have what I wanted in life. And that was for a variety of reasons that do not have any bearing on this discussion. But the result of that was that most of what happened to me in life, I assumed was what was supposed to happen to me. So I just took it and did the best I could in that space. And then, if it was good or felt good or seemed positive, I'd give it my all. If it was negative, I would do what I could to work with it. But I was never really in command of what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And working with the Dharma has shifted that a little bit. So what I'm experiencing now is I'm realizing that there are a lot of people in my life that are taxing me. And they're not bad people, but they're kind of people that are in my life because no one else will play with them. And this goes back to habituation I had as a child, where I was required to play with my sister because no one else would play with her. And I realized, oh, this has just been a long-standing pattern, and this is not serving me well. So that's actually something that came up for me in practice, not here in the retreat, but at other times when I'm working with my practice. And I'm not quite sure how to get off this rudderless boat if I don't have anything I really want to point to. Like, for example, right now, I'm not in a relationship, but I'm like, well, that's only because that's what happened to me. Do I want to be in a relationship? I don't know. I don't know. That would involve desire at some level. So how do I work with that? I don't know. Do I want to change my job? Maybe I should do that. Maybe I'd have a better future if I did. Maybe it would be worse. I don't know. Mm-hmm. What should I do? I don't know. And I don't know how you can, what I'm feeling is that I'm feeling that practice is leading me to intuitions. For example, I think we talked about how, I feel there's something changing. Like something's gonna change, but I don't know what it is. So I'm kind of poking this way and I'm kind of poking that way. And I don't know what's gonna poke through. But I don't know how to square the circle on this personally. So I've spoken.
So if you look or hearken back to the reading on choices, and basically that was the whole first part of the reading was about choices. And that the foundation of a good choice is a pure heart. So it's really important to keep it super simple. Seriously, super simple. And the pure heart is our bodhisattva vow. So what would it be like if you made the choice every day to just be the best bodhisattva you possibly can be, to practice well, to practice completely, totally give yourself over to your Dharma practice. And then things happen.
Yeah, I think I would add too that, there can be an easy misreading or a misfeeling, I guess, to say that if I could attain X, Y, and Z, then I will be happy. And we know better, right? But the reality is that if we can't actually appreciate our life right now, then we shall never be able to. Because no matter what circumstances come or go, we are at the center of our own mandala. And so from this perspective, right now is perfect. There's no need to add or subtract a damn thing. What we need to do is to realize what this moment is. Realize who is it that's experiencing this moment, right? Like that's the central thing that unlocks or doesn't the prison that we are in our minds. But once that's unlocked, you still have to decide what to do. That's still true, right? Okay, I'm okay where I am, and maybe I've realized something of what my life is and how to live it. Still, what shall you do is a real question. And one of the most important answers is embracing the not knowing. I love how many times you said, I don't know, in that. That's great. Just keep on that train, sister. That's a good one, because that keeps you awake to what's actually going on. Once you get it all figured out and you got the map and you got the plan, it's not bad, but we need to be careful about it, because we can lock in on that. And this is how it's got to be because that's what I said, So and the other thing that's true is that really you can never really know. You really can't. I mean, you could say, well, do I choose A or B? And the thing is, you really can't know all the actual implications of that choice. It's not possible in this world. You can't really know. Like, well, if I do A, then what happens down the road that I can't see, contrasted with B and then C even. And one can become quite paralyzed, waiting for certainty before you're able to act. And if we wait for that certainty, we will surely do nothing, because actually, if you reflect at all, almost nothing is certain, save the impermanence of life. So for me, it gets real clear real quick. Awakening is the deal. That is the thing. Beyond all, even my health, which is real close number 2. If this body ceases to function, then I'm done with the work in this lifetime, right? So may it go well. But the most important thing, there are plenty of vigorously healthy people on the planet right now who are trapped in horrible realms of suffering. The main thing, if you have to decide something, is decide to realize yourself. That's the most important thing. And then the rest is kind of like playful details. You can be at home anywhere, and you can be a bodhisattva in any realm. And it kind of doesn't matter, and it kind of does. But you can choose that. You're not just kind of at the push and pull of karma.
But practice lets us totally encounter for true, authentically, that the world offers itself to us freely in all of its beauty and majesty and fulfillment. That's really what we're practicing.
I saw a hand here.
I'm Chujin. So getting ready for death, the 5 remembrances are really powerful for me, and really made me to say, man, you got to let's get into action. And so what I've been doing is working with forgiveness of people, of grudges, of things that I've been carrying. So I can be free of that and truly live today, because carrying those things did not create life for me. So I'm all about business right now. Practical stuff. How do I make sure my children don't have to bear any type of burden with my death, and making sure that the relationships are all in order. So the time that I have to live, I'm alive and I'm looking to move forward. So it's kind of task oriented right now. I'm choosing. I've spoken.
Yeah, I mean, that's good, solid housekeeping, man. And the thing is, too, that, those flowers that reek of revenge and that smell of, our victimhood and our, transgressions and all that, I mean, they're intoxicating in a way. And the thing is, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody is sitting around keeping score. It's just not happening, right? And yet we will live and die with those stories as though they matter. Some stories matter, but you can tell the ones that do because they bring life to you, right? And we make a goof or worse. No kidding, you're human, we're human. Recognize it, regret it, feel the pinch of it, and resolve to not do it and move on. That's how you integrate it. There's simply no value in continuing to kind of rehash the story once it's served its use. The thing is that the ego doesn't care, really, if it gets reified through pain or pleasure. It just wants to be there. So you're the great one, you're the hero, you're the amazing one, or you're the idiot, you're the oaf, no one loves me. Doesn't matter. It's two sides of the exact same coin. It keeps us locked in that prison of me. And that is its only game. So it's good to make those arrangements. I mean, I wish more of us did, absolutely, But the big one really is mentally take off the backpack. Just take it off. Just let it go. Just set it down and let it go. And when you do, it is scary as all hell. It feels horribly wrong. It feels like dereliction of duty, or like we don't care, or we're being a bad person again in some weird way or something. But actually, the backpack is not helping your bodhisattva vow at all. It's getting in the way, right? So take the lessons, take the gifts, let everything go, and then each step is fresh. Each step is new. Each breath, the world is birthed into creation again and then dies, and then comes again into creation, and then is again let go of. This constant turning of the seasons, the sprouting and fruition and decaying and letting go of the leaves, which then become nutriment for the next generation. It is just like this.
Also, if you want to be practical about it, remember, as a bodhisattva, for the sake of all beings, to bring all beings to full and complete Buddhahood, I let this shit go. Right? That's actually a really great vow, because it gives the ego enough sort of hook to jump on, to feel comfortable with. So you're willing to go along for that ride. And it's true, which is really nice.
Time for maybe one, maybe two more, please.
My name is Koju. When I finished up my last semester of school, I took a philosophy of ethics class, and I read a story called The Death of Ivan Ilyich. I don't know if any of you are familiar. And it's a fantastic read. If you haven't read it, I'd highly recommend it. You can sit down and read it in a couple of hours. Um, but that story shifted me, and it shifted me in a very it plugged straight into my practice. And essentially, it's a man who is obsessed with all the fineries and the shallowest material details of his life, the power that he lords over people because he's a judge, all these things, and winds up with some strange illness, and he begins wasting away. He's just wasting. There's nobody can tell him why. All the doctors, they give him a pat on the back and put a cold washcloth on his head, tell him he's going to get better, and he doesn't. Okay, take this 3 times a day. It doesn't help. All the rest of it, and just the entire way destroying himself and his family while he's trying to deal with these changes. And in the twilight moment of sinking into the hole of death, compassion. Finally, the whole thing opens up, and he sees his family, he sees his wife, he sees his child with compassion. And it just is such a powerful illustration. And for whatever reason, when you were talking about the flowers, the thing that came to me, and I think I saw this in the Richard Gere documentary on Tibetan Buddhism, where there's an interview with a monk, and they're looking at this like really ornate glass. It's a cup, like a glass, and the person who's talking to this monk says, "What do you see when you look at this cup?" And he says, "Well, for me, it's already broken." And I can't even explain why, because before this was not like, I wasn't on this path at that point, but something in that, I knew there was a truth to that, because his point was, I'm grateful for it as it is now, because I know it's not always going to be this way. Yeah. It's just not. At some point, this glass is broken, so I'm gonna savor every moment of this thing of beauty as it is right now. And there's a recurring phrase throughout that story, the death of Ivan Ilyich, and it's a Latin phrase. It's respica finem, which means consider the end. And I carry that with me now every day. And I feel like that's just when you said, how do you respond? I just felt that. I felt that consider the end, and I felt that gratitude for, as much as the knees hurt and I've got the diagnosed back thing now and all that, it's not going away. It's just not. And in the midst of all of that, just gratitude. Man, what a gift to be here. That every moment, everything that crosses our path is a teacher, is a gift. And it's vibrant and alive and full of it's just, I don't know.
Yeah. Yastani Roshi used to always say, every time you sit zazen, you should die. And I think that's it's a good note to close our conversation today on. Because then obviously the period ends and you're alive again. And oh shit, that's where the trouble is. The death is not the trouble. What are you going to do? How are we going to be? So let us practice together. There is still much to be done in this session. There are more periods to come, and there's more practice at hand. And I'd like to encourage everybody to really, really do the thing. Really, whatever your practice is, just completely throw yourself into that. And let the practice teach you. It's not really a matter of listening to words from teachers and trying to memorize them. At best, they can help or be inspirational for you to actually have your own practice unfold. That's what this whole thing is about. Whatever use teachers are, it's simply in service to that. So now it's time. let's conclude with our bodhisattva vows and let the practice continue. May it be so.